Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Wealth Defense Radio, the podcast. I'm your host, Josh Nahosa, and I am an independent advisor representative for SWAN, DFW. That stands for Sleep Well at Night, Dallas, Fort Worth. And I am here with my co-host, the man who can only name 3 of the 5 Great Lakes. It is Hector Hinojosa. And Hector.
Good morning.
Hector is a certified financial planner, and he started SWAN about 11 years ago now.
January 2014, yeah. And SWAN is an independent registered investment advisory. It means just that. We're independent. We don't work for anybody except our clients. We get to choose the products. One of the main reasons I started it is to make sure that we get the very best for our clients, and I'm excited to be here again. I'm surprised they haven't canceled this yet.
Yeah, me too.
I think It was a tough meeting last week, but okay.
Yep, they let us do another episode.
One episode at a time is what they told us.
Mm-hmm.
So let's make this one the greatest episode ever.
That's the hope. If you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure to give us a like. If you're listening on Spotify, give us 5 stars.
We'd appreciate that, and share this with other people. And today's going to be a little bit different, but I think it's going to be good.
Yeah. Why don't you explain what we're doing today?
Well, typically we're a long-term financial planning firm. We talk in terms of 5 years, 10 years, and 20-year increments, and we like to remind people that that's what we do. We invest for the long term, we plan for the long term, and we don't really like talking about short-term stuff, but sometimes things happen, like they've happened over the last 4 or 5 weeks, that it's worth, people are interested and they want our take on it, and we're going to review some of the things that have happened and then go from there.
Yeah, but before we do that, this week, as we record, is the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl?
Yeah.
What's that?
I don't know.
It's the Kansas City Chiefs versus, according to our preacher, the Philistines. So
yeah. Are you excited? I think Mahomes, the quarterback for Kansas City, I think one day we're going to look back on him and what he's doing and what he's done and what he's accomplished, like you guys look at Tom Brady and the generation before looked at like Troy Aikman, Roger Staubach, and even before that, Bart Starr. Because I think he's proving to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of the NFL. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have thought it'd be fun to go through a few prop bets.
Absolutely. I'm an expert on these.
Of course, you can bet on actual sports stuff.
Yeah, but
how
fun is that?
Yeah. This is much more entertaining.
Absolutely.
I think. So the first one that we have here is heads or tails.
Now, mathematically, I did the research all morning. You have, believe it or not, a 50% chance of being right and a 50% chance of being wrong. Who would have thought that?
Yeah, that's crazy. So heads or tails?
Definitely tails.
Okay.
We should mark these down so we when we come back.
We can come back next week and see
so we don't
how
change them.
we did.
The
next one here, the national anthem.
Yes,
Over,
I think they'll
under,
play it.
Over. Couple of national anthem bets,
Okay.
actually. The over-under is 1:58.
Okay.
The over on the national anthem time has hit 3 of the last 4. It was under last year.
Okay.
So over under 1:58.
I don't even know who's doing the national anthem.
Let's see if it'll tell me. Looks like a pop star. It doesn't say in this article.
Male or female?
Looks like it doesn't say.
Okay. Female over, male under. What do you think about that?
Okay.
Knowing nothing else, because, guys want to hurry up and get to the game. Women, they're really enjoying all of the food and stuff going on.
Okay. Will the singer forget or miss a word in the national anthem?
Well, not knowing who they are, it's really hard these days unless you have had a drink or 2 or 10 before you do that. So I'm going to say no.
Okay.
The Gatorade color
Ah.
to be dumped. The best odds are orange. Water is the least likely.
Yeah.
You can also bet on it's orange, blue, yellow, green, red, purple.
I think green is making a comeback.
Okay.
And since that's the only one I drink, well, not the only one I drink, the preferred one that I drink, it's going to be green.
Last one we'll do. First brand that you'll see in a Super Bowl commercial, like after kickoff.
After kickoff, I'm not only am I going to give you the brand, which will be Service Now, I'm going to give you the commercial, the, what's his name? UT guy.
Colt McCoy.
No, the guy that's raining. He's in a restaurant and his buddies are
Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey, and I suspect they will have a brand new kind of commercial. But yeah, that company's doing really well, and the commercial is that particular commercial is doing. Just getting a bunch of print, of course, in the financial stuff. So I don't know how the rest of the world is looking at it, but the stuff that I look at, they keep saying, "What a great commercial that is."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Service Now.
Service Now, absolutely, or Doritos.
Doritos is the best odds. That seems to be the most likely according to Vegas.
Yeah.
The other top ones are like Bud Light, Pepsi, and Apple.
Yeah. Oh, Apple. Anyway, yeah, I am sticking by my guns. Doritos will be the. Oh no, I didn't. Okay, one of the maybe
guns,
Apple.
The guns may be lost.
Yeah. Anyway,
so why don't you talk us through? Hector has built some slides. So if you are only listening on Spotify, this would be a great episode to pop on over to YouTube.
yeah.
So you can see the visual aids that Hector has been slaving over for minutes.
Yeah. So in the last 5 weeks, and this happened just yesterday, we're recording this on February 4th. We've had news about tariffs, about general market reaction. We're going to talk about how markets have reacted to the last two big stories that have come out, and then the economy in general, and then what's called the January barometer. And we'll talk about what that is and why that might be good news for 2025.
Yeah. So let's start, I guess, with tariffs.
Yeah. So most people, economists, I think they interviewed or they polled 25 top economists and they asked them, are tariffs inflationary? And tariffs, when they're intended for trade purposes, all 25 agreed that tariffs for trade purposes are inflationary, but these tariffs, according to the administration, are about drugs and border security. And it's interesting about drugs because 55% of Americans want to legalize many of the drugs we're trying to keep from coming in. But that's a different story. And so, yeah, for that reason, and because both Mexico 2 days ago, China yesterday, and even Canada 2 days ago, have started to negotiate, and the Trump administration seems to be open to that. So tariffs I don't think is going to have the impact that many of the people that were opposed to tariffs is going to have had they really been for trade purposes. We'd have got ourselves into a trade war, and that's never good. So that's what's happened in tariffs. They've been announced, and going forward, it looks like there's been some negotiations already, and so that's a good thing.
Yeah. So this is not going to turn into a trade war.
Doesn't seem that way. Mexico said that they would put 10,000 troops on the border to help the flow of drugs. And that seemed to be, I remember yesterday somebody said that was a capitulation by Mexico, except for they'd already negotiated that like last year. So Mexico just said, okay, we're going to do what we said we were going to do. And the Trump administration was good with that. I think one of the things about the Trump administration is they measure success on the stock market. So when they saw what was happening to the market, and we'll talk about that in reactions, they kind of softened their positions.
Yep. So the second thing I guess this leads us into is how markets overreact.
Markets, that's it. Markets react, and they always overreact. And sometimes they overreact to the positive. But usually when there's negative information or what is perceived to be negative information, they overreact greatly to the negative. And we had on Sunday night, the tariffs were announced on Sunday afternoon. I track some, not a lot, but I check in on what's happening in overnight markets. And some of the overnight markets in the S&P and the NASDAQ were down 5 and 6%. So there's a tremendous sell-off. And it was at the open on Monday, there was a sell-off, but by the close, they had regained, they were up from their lows, as we like to do it. And so overreaction by the market is something we anticipate, and you never make money selling into a panic. So when there's bad news, if you still like the companies and the sectors you're in, you just kind of have to hold your nose, maybe turn off the TV, go get something to eat, but don't sit there and watch as these markets overreact, because they'll come back.
Yeah. I think that's a big thing, is you don't have to watch the news and the collapse 12 hours a day. Like if your plan is fundamentally sound, then you'll be able to withstand.
And I think, and then again, that's what we'll be talking about is long-term, 5 and 10 years, but people get caught up, and we thought it was important for us to talk about the overreaction of the tariffs and the AI that was announced by China. It moved the market, but you still, on this AI chip by China, they said they could take a generation or 2 generation old NVIDIA chip and get it to learn as faster. And I loved one of the analysts said, you still had to start with an NVIDIA chip.
Yeah.
And so, and then we were talking about it. I was talking to a client yesterday. It's like if in the car universe, if Cadillac had been the very first people that came out, top of the line, very expensive, and China developed or Japan developed like a Toyota, you would have a move in the market a little bit, because new drivers would buy a Toyota because they couldn't afford a Cadillac. But not many Cadillac drivers or owners are going to buy Toyotas. And so the people that really need the fastest chip available, the Metas of the world, they're still going to buy. So I think NVIDIA is still a great company, and I think it overreacted, and it's down a bit, but it'll come back.
We should say we're recording
this. We think it'll come back. It's not actionable. We feel very confident owning NVIDIA. How about that?
Okay. What I was going to say is we should say we're recording this on February the 4th of 2025.
Right. Yeah.
So this is just when we're talking about it. So if news happens after that.
It's not our fault. We didn't know. It was supposed to be heads.
Yeah. All right. What's the third thing you got?
About the economy. One thing is about stocks, and the other thing is about how the general economy, and the economy is in pretty good shape. All of the numbers we look at are really good, and it seems to be getting stronger. The unemployment rate is down, inflation is down, so it's a good thing. And the ISM, which is an indicator of how the economy is doing, are showing some very, very positive signs. It's been around 50, and how that's measured is at that point, it looks like there's going to be an increase in the economy, an expansion of the economy. So
why don't you explain, before you go on, what the ISM is?
It's a measure of the industrials, how industrial companies, manufacturers and those kind of things, how they're thinking about the economic and upcoming economic activity, the business conditions. The biggest indicator for a business is how many orders are we getting, and how does that compare to the orders we got last month or last quarter or last year? If you're getting more orders, then that's a good thing. If you're getting less orders, something's wrong. And so most folks are saying that they have a good feel for it going forward, And not only them as the individual company in a sector, but the whole sector is getting more orders. That means the economy is expanding. I mean, whatever they're selling, whatever sector they're in, there's more people buying it. And so it's a real good indicator of how some of the bigger companies that make stuff are feeling. And it can be stuff like computers, but it could be like a John Deere that's making big old tractors and stuff. When those numbers, when they start feeling good about it, that says a lot about the economy. They're having to move a lot of dirt because dirt has to be moved, and properties have to be ready for construction, and construction is really good for the economy. And finally, earnings. So you're getting a lot of orders, but are they the kind of orders that you can make money on? And earnings, when people have reported, 79% of the companies that have reported their earnings, when you go to report your earnings on a quarterly basis, there's what the expectations of the market is. And 79% of these companies have beaten their forecasts. And so that's a good sign. Not only are we selling stuff and we're getting orders, but we're profitable. And as an aside to that, one of the biggest things that I think has happened is companies like Palantir and especially Spotify are answering the question that has been on everybody's mind. Yes, you're buying a lot of technology, a lot of artificial intelligence, but is that making you more profitable? And yesterday, Palantir blew the doors off their number, and Spotify is up like 10% today. Spotify is just a listening app, and it tries to figure out what you like, and it starts suggesting stuff. And so all of a sudden, come real live companies selling real live stuff to real live Americans and people around the world are making money by buying these products. And that's great news for the economy, in my opinion.
There you go. I don't know if you've used a lot of Spotify, because I know you're not a big music person. For our listeners, Hector enjoys about 22 songs total ever written.
Yeah, the greatest 22 songs ever written.
But one of the things Spotify does, they have like an AI DJ that will like make it sound like you're listening to a radio station. Yeah. It'll talk to you and do the between song cuts and play songs that it knows you like, and then songs that are similar, and introduce them. It's really interesting. It's an interesting application for AI, and it makes a lot of sense for that company for sure.
Oh yeah. And more people are subscribing, which means that it's working. It's one thing to say I really like the idea. It's another thing to say I like the idea so much I'm going to go ahead and pay the subscription, whatever it costs to do that. That's the what's the matter, as my dad used to say.
Yep. Okay, now let's talk about January to close us out.
Yeah, January is an important indicator. This is one of those where we don't know if it's an effect or if it's just a reflection, but let's say it's an effect. When January finishes is a positive month, the S&P 500 is higher at the end of January 31 it was at the beginning. It's a good sign for the market. Since 1950, that's happened 45 times. The median gain by the S&P 500 is 19%. And that's an 89% win ratio means that 89% of the companies inside the S&P 500 were also positive. So nothing but good news from January finishing positive. And it had to make a big comeback in the last few days because it didn't look like it was going to, but it did. So that's our very short term. Don't like to talk about short term, but we felt like we had to because of all the news. And so there's very few guarantees we can make, but I can guarantee you that in 5 years, the market will be higher than it is today. Certainly 10 years and 20 years from now it will be. So that's what our plans are designed to do. So even if we have a hiccup here, don't let it rattle you. And like you say, don't sit there and watch it for 12 hours because that's just not good for anybody.
Yeah. Watching the news 12 hours a day is Hector's job, actually. That's what we do.
That's what we do. I have a client who used to call me and say, I'm really worried. I finally said, look, I will tell you when to worry. Unless I call you and say it's time to worry, don't worry. And he's taking that to heart.
There you go. So feels like a win. So if you would like to talk to us about anything short term or long term or in the medium term.
In the medium term, and not have to worry and be able to sleep well at night, that would be reasons to talk to us.
Yeah, we have a couple of different ways that you can contact us. The first way is via phone number, and that is 888-792-6339. That spells out 888-SWAN-DFW. And our email address is info@swandfw.net. All of that information will be in the description wherever it is you are watching or listening. And I think that's all we got for you guys.
That's it. Go Chiefs, and have a blessed day.
Yep, we'll catch you all in the next one. The preceding content is informational only and based on information available when created. It is not an offer or solicitation, nor is it tax or legal advice. It does not consider your financial circumstances and objectives and may not be suitable for you.